4th, 1974. Barry Stock is born. At a young age, Stock was introduced to bands such as Black Sabbath, Van Halen, and AC/DC. Stock grew up as a self-taught guitarist, and he originally played drums first. February 16th of 1977, Brad Walst is born. Adam Gontier was born in Peterborough, Ontario, Canada on May 25th, 1978, the youngest of four brothers. He was raised in Markham, Ontario. Shortly after his parents divorced, he moved back to the Peterborough area where he initially attended Adam Scott Collegiate and Vocational Institute. Neil Sanderson was born on December 17th, 1978 in Peterborough, Canada. Sanderson took up the piano before he started school. He had an avid interest in music and worked with different instruments while he was in elementary school. December 28th, 1982, Matt Walst is born. In 1987, Barry Stock bought his first guitar when he was 13, which was a Raven Telecaster copy. In 1990, Neil Sanderson became enamored of the drums and started playing them at the age of 12. In 1992, Adam Gontier moved to the Norwood area and attended Norwood District High School, where he met and befriended future 3 Days Grace members Neil Sanderson and Brad Walst. Gontier's mother was a jazz piano player and was an influence to him as a musician. Gontier began writing songs at the age of 14 and was influenced by bands such as Nirvana and Pearl Jam. He also cites inspiration from the Seattle music scene. Gontier has stated that he uses music as an outlet and release for emotions and feelings. Neil Sanderson entered Norwood District High School in 1992. Before that, he attended Adam Scott CVI High School in Peterborough, where he met Adam Gontier when both of them were in grade 9. With bassist Brad Walt, they practiced writing and playing instruments. They created the band Groundswell with Phil Crow and Joe Grant. Sanderson was also the drummer for the band Thousand Foot Crutch from 1995 to 1997. The band started out as a quintet named Groundswell in Norwood, Ontario in 1992. Groundswell released one full-length album, Wave of Popular Feeling, in 1995, containing singles Eddie, Poison Ivy, and Stare. The band's lineup consisted of lead vocalist Adam Gontier, drummer Neil Sanderson, bassist Brad Walst, lead guitarist Phil Crow, and rhythm guitarist Joe Grant. Most of the members were attending high school when the band formed. By the end of 1997, the band had broken up. As for the album itself, Stare is a 1, In the Sand is 2, Weatherman is 3, Chronic is a 4, Eddie is a 5, Snatch is a 6, Wave of Popular Feeling is a 7, SOB is an 8, Poison Ivy is a 9, and the final track was a 0. As for the album Wave of Popular Feeling itself, it wasn't groundbreaking. It was your stoner rock sound, it really did kind of just sound like a ripoff of Nirvana. 3 Days Grace hadn't really honed their sound yet. Obviously, they didn't even have their name, so you couldn't really expect them to be anything special. And they never really did much with the name. They used the band to tour local bars and backyard parties and such. It was essentially a just finished high school band. The songs themselves aren't anything special. The lyrics are decent, but just a lot of the same kind of repeated things that had already been said before. In 1997, Gontier, Sanderson, and Walst regrouped as 3 Days Grace. According to Gontier, the name refers to a sense of urgency, with the question being whether someone could change something in their life if they had only 3 days to make a change. Once in Toronto, the band became acquainted with local producer Gavin Brown. They gave him several years' worth of material which they had created, and he picked out what he called the golden nuggets, according to Gontier. Brown and the band polished the songs and created a demo album, which they gave to EMI Music Publishing Canada. As for the demos themselves, none of them were particularly special, besides ones that were eventually seen on their debut album, which I won't get into now. However, there were 3 that really did stand out, actually 4. This movie featuring Thousand Foot Krutch, TV in Front of Me, and My Own Life, which I think you should all definitely go and check out. The record label wanted to hear more material, and with Gavin Brown producing, the band created the song I Hate Everything About You, which attracted the interest of several record labels. 3 Days Grace were soon signed to Jive Records after being sought out by the company's then president Barry Weiss. Additionally, the group signed with Zomba in 2002. This is an unrelated release by the group, but there's no actual official part in this timeline that I could fit this in with the script where it actually fit naturally. But there were several acoustic songs and EPs released around this time, the most famous being the Rolling Stone original EP, which is still on Spotify. So they're essentially, it's just a demo of I Hate Everything About You, and then acoustic versions of Just Like You, Wake Up, Drown, and then 2 acoustic versions of I Hate Everything About You. They really milked that song as much as possible when it came out because it was the one that got them famous. And it is a good song. But overall, a lot of these acoustic versions are really good, and a few of them are even better, in my opinion, than the studio versions, specifically the acoustic version of Wake Up. They moved to Longview Farm, a studio in North Brookfield, Massachusetts, to record their debut album. The group completed half of the album at Longview, while the rest was done at Bearsville Studios in Bearsville, New York. The self-titled album was finished in Woodstock and released on July 22nd, 2003. As for the album itself, the one that we are here to talk about in this part of the documentary itself, or video, whatever you want to call this, it's decent. It isn't their best album. Obviously, we have to get to that. This is just the debut. It isn't perfect album or flawless. Even the opening track could have been better, but the things that were the golden nuggets really are great. Just Like You, obviously I Hate Everything About You is still getting radio play to this day. Just Like You gets some occasional. Home really hits hard. It is one of my all-time favorite songs by the band still to this day. Scared has a great guitar riff. Let You Down is definitely a memorable song. It's a great song. I like it. The verses are okay, but the chorus does really feel great. And it is interesting when you read the actual notes of the album, because I do have a CD copy, that you see that Matt Walst actually helped write specifically the guitar riffs for Scared and Let You Down. But then there's songs that kind of fall flat, like Now or Never, Born Like This, and Overrated. And there are songs that I would straight up skip on listen usually, like Wake Up, which has a great guitar riff, but the lyrics themselves are not anything to write home about. Drown is one of the few songs that isn't in the first half of the album that really stands out, which is of course why they did later release it as an acoustic version, which is understandable. So yeah, overall it's a pretty good album, but of course, as the band's first effort, even though they'd been a band for about 9 years already at this point, they weren't, they really grinded to make it, and they did, even if it wasn't perfect, and of course they would later improve anyway, so it's okay. To support the album, the band released their first single, I Hate Everything About You, the song whose demo had gotten the band a record deal, on April 28th, 2003. The song received heavy airplay and rapidly became widely recognizable and was labeled as the band's breakout hit. The song peaked at number 1 on the Canadian rock chart, becoming their first number 1 hit in the country. Gavin Brown, who produced the track, earned the group a Juno Award for Producer of the Year in 2004. In support of their major label debut, the group joined Trapt as an opening act on a U.S. tour from July to September of 2003. In late 2003, Barry Stock joined the group after the band was auditioning for a second guitar player. Stock was introduced to the group by his manager in Toronto, after they needed some help with their gear. The group joined Nickelback on the long road tour between October and November of 2003. The band also joined Evanescence on a North American tour in 2004, as well as Hoobastank on the Let It Out tour that same year. The group embarked on a headlining tour in 2004 called the 3 Days Grace World Tour. The album peaked at number 9 on the Canadian Albums Chart and number 69 on the Billboard 200, and was certified platinum in the U.S. by the RIAA in December of 2004, and double platinum in Canada by the CRIA. The album's second single, Just Like You, was released on March 29, 2004. The song became the first of many of the band's songs to top the U.S. Billboard Alternative Airplay and Mainstream Rock charts. Home was released on October 4th of 2004 as the third single from the album. The fourth and final single, Wake Up, was released exclusively in Canada on January 10th of 2005. The self-titled album was met with mixed to favorable reviews. Dave Doré of IGN said of the album, almost every single song from the 3 Days Grace tracklist is heavy and catchy with chewy chunks of assurance and fury thrown in for added measure. AllMusic reviewer Heather Phares criticized the album for its simplicity, but praised the group's tight songwriting and unexpectedly pretty choruses that made them stand out among their peers. This is a change from the Wave of Popular Feeling album, which was admittedly very drudgy, very messy, it doesn't sound like they put a lot, and of course it isn't a major label debut, they didn't have a lot of money behind it, but even listening to it now, it just doesn't feel like they hadn't honed their sound yet. So, whereas even without the studio backing in the demos they had with like this TV, you can hear that they were they had their sound formed. And so it's not just the fact that they had the money behind it. However, Spin gave a negative review, calling it Canadian gripe rock. The band appeared as themselves in the 2004 film Raise Your Voice, performing their songs Are You Ready and Home. Adam Gontier married Naomi Faith Brewer in 2004. During the tour for the self-titled album, Barry Stock spent 48 hours in jail following an arrest for driving under the influence after the concert. The story can be heard retold in this video with more detail. In 2005, My Darkest Days was founded by Matt Walst, who was born in Norwood, Ontario, and whose older brother, Brad Walst, is the bassist for the Canadian rock band 3 Days Grace. Instead of playing in his brother's band, Walst decided to form one of his own with his friends Brendan McMillian on bass guitar, Doug Oliver on drums, and Chris McMillian on lead guitar. Chris McMillian left the band and became an electrician, being replaced by Paulo Neda. Unfortunately for you guys, that is where we're going to leave it here at this part, because I feel getting long enough. And we kind of covered the first era of 3 Days Grace. There's 10 parts to this series, so you're not going to miss out. There's obviously going to be some breaks and such. I'm thinking of maybe releasing one part of each of these a month. But I'm not sure. This was going to be my big 2023 project, but the year's already almost over. I've been through a lot. I plan to make a video kind of detailing what kind of things I've been through, because it's a story that could be put into a novel, honestly. But I've kept my head up, and I do intend to return to other things. But that's not all for here. That's for another video. So, hope you tune in next time. Bye-bye.